Hey, you're back. So am I. Irrelevant news. So the British Prime Minister said this at the UN.
And when Kermit the Frog sang, "It's not easy being green." Do you remember that one? I want you to know that he was wrong.
That is in fact correct, folks. Kermit the Frog couldn't be more wrong about being green. I mean, does he have any idea just how incredibly difficult it is to be blue?
He was wrong. It is easy. It's not only easy, it's lucrative, and it's right to be green. He was also unnecessarily rude to Miss Piggy, I thought, Kermit the Frog.
Oh, well, thank goodness, folks, that we finally have a person in power who's holding that lunatic Kermit the Frog responsible for the way he's been treating Miss Piggy all these years. I find it incredibly disgusting that Kermit has managed to get away with his treatment of all the Muppets over the years with zero consequences. Seriously, the guy's literally out of his mind to the point where he will literally fight himself. Literally. And speaking of green, former Trump National Security Advisor, General Michael Flynn, who can be seen here showing everyone how many active neurons he has in his brain, had this to say about the COVID vaccine.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing. Or salads. Have you seen this?
Folks, I'm so grateful for people like General Flynn who are using their precious time to read every single Facebook post about the COVID vaccine and take it as fact. Now, but in all seriousness, folks, it has to be the most idiotic conspiracy theory I've ever heard in my entire life. Why the fuck would somebody try to sneak the COVID vaccine into salad dressing? The one thing that literally nobody eats. Why not put it in a cheeseburger or chocolate or gummy bears? Like, literally, there's so many other options of foods that people eat more than salad dressing. And I mean, if they really wanted to go all out, they could always put Pfizer and Coke and Moderna and Pepsi and Johnson & Johnson and vodka. Makes a great drink, which is something I think that Carol Baskin feels like she needs right now, especially when you consider her response to the announcement that they're making a Tiger King 2.
Carol Baskin slams Tiger King 2 directors. I wouldn't call them true documentarians.
You don't really want to piss off Carol Baskin, folks. She might just end up feeding the entire documentary to her tigers, allegedly. Anyway, folks, Kim Kardashian is set to host SNL, and some people are very upset about it.
Why Kim Kardashian? I mean, I know she's a cultural icon, but SNL has hosts generally who are performers who are there to promote a film, TV show, or album launch. Am I missing something?
Deborah, word of advice, you don't really want to mess with the mentors. They will literally haunt you for the rest of your life. And moving on to Gary Vee, who recently had this video go viral.
You know what I think is a better advantage than being born into something? Being born into nothing.
This, coming from the guy who was born into his parents' wine business, is the best advice that I've ever heard in my entire life. Because, folks, who doesn't love being dirt poor?
I'm on the record. Remember I said it. Can't wait to watch it in 20 years. The internet the way it is today, I'd rather have 0 than 100 million.
You know, folks, I live in Los Angeles, one of the cities in the United States with the highest percentage of homelessness, and I think I just realized that I've been doing this whole thing wrong. I mean, I'm living in an apartment when I should actually be living in the middle of the street, which is much better for your future. I can't believe it took me this long to realize this. Thank you, Gary Vee, for educating me.
People that have 0, like this guy's an idiot. That's because you don't talk to trust fund babies. I do. I talk to trust fund babies. They DM me. I meet them in real life because of my business career. They're sad. Do you know what it's like to talk to a human being that looks at you at 22 years old and says, no matter what I do for the next 80 years, it will never be my own accomplishment?
Won't you think of the trust fund babies, folks? They suffer so much. They're rich, but they don't feel fulfilled by their wealth. Oh my God, it is such an awful existence to have. Way worse than starving, some say.
Everybody will always say I was handed it, and I'm done. You know what kind of level of depression, cocaine, and partying until you die that leads to? A lot.
Now, folks, if you think it's bad to deal with depression from being poor, you have absolutely no idea what it's like to deal with depression from being rich. When you're dealing with depression from being rich, you're literally forced to go out and party with random strangers and do drugs if that's your thing. Now, all jokes aside, folks, that has to be one of the most dumb fuck takes I've ever heard in my entire life. You're never going to convince me that I had it better. 2 years ago, when I was sitting in a food stamp office here in downtown LA, hoping I could get $200-something a month so I could go down to the dollar store and buy myself a little bit of groceries so I wasn't hungry all day, okay? You're never going to convince me that that was better than having the small amount of comfort that I'm able to afford myself right now. Now, I know that Gary's presenting a paradoxical premise that's meant to challenge the way people think and the viewer feel like they're being enlightened. But at the end of the day, folks, poverty isn't good for your life. It affects your mental health. It affects your physical health. It affects every area of your life. In fact, if you look at the social mobility of every single country, it's very rare for people to move out of poverty into wealth to the point where they actually are able to have trust fund babies. At the end of the day, the only people who are capable of glamorizing poverty are the rich people who have time to think about it. So Gary, I invite you to kick your kids out of your house so they can learn the lesson you're trying to teach everyone. Otherwise, kindly shut the fuck up. Anyway, folks, moving on. The Tana Mongeau. Apparently, Tana and her podcast co-host have an unhealthy obsession with Pete Davidson.
I DM'd him on Instagram. He only has Instagram in like sporadic time periods, like when he's promoting something. Like if a movie comes out, he reactivates his Instagram, has it for a week, whatever.
Yeah. Very creepy. She knows that.
Tell me you're a stalker without telling me you're a stalker.
And I was like, that's so funny that you live in New York, because I'm actually about to be in New York. I, of course, was not about to be in New York, but then all of a
booking the
sudden
next JetBlue Mint flight there,
I did. I literally booked a flight the next day.
And that's not irrational.
And I was there that weekend. And I'm texting him like, hey, I'm in New York. Like, what's good?
Ah, yes. My psychic powers kicked in, folks. I am having a vision. I see a restraining order in her future.
And then years later, we match on a dating app. Tana decides that she would be better to handle the conversation on her own. And so she texts him, which, by the way, I don't do any drugs. She messages him, I'm high on shrooms. What do I do? Or like,
Tana Mongeau's a perfect wing woman, folks, if you want to lose a person you're interested in. And moving on to Logan Paul, he recently had Thor from Game of Thrones on his podcast, and it went pretty well, you could say.
I'm bringing something special to America. Skyr. Icelandic skyr. Do you know what skyr is? If you don't know what skyr is, I need to hook you guys with skyr.
I love that. I love skiing.
I have a slight suspicion that he is not talking about skiing.
Skiing's one of my favorite alpine sports.
Not
Been doing it since I was a kid.
Not
French fry
skiing.
pizza.
Yeah, listen, Mike. Skyr, Icelandic skyr, is like a yogurt, but like thicker. And don't fucking mess with me. My accent is quite off here.
Hey, Mike, you might want to rethink messing with the guy whose nickname is The Mountain and who is literally 3 times your size. He may just rip you. Actually, on second thought, keep messing with him. Make sure you film it too. I would love to see it. And in other news, David Dobrik returned to America.
They let me back into America. All I had to do was exchange 12 Teslas and Jason's firstborn for my green card.
David is so funny. I actually did not mean to start laughing for real.
But all jokes aside, this is a super, super big deal for me, and I really appreciate everyone who helped me finally become legal. I will never forget this.
Gary Vee was right, folks. Being rich and well-connected sucks. David Dobrik had to actually go through the grueling experience of expediting a process that for most normal people may even take years. Moving on from David to his arch nemesis, Trisha Paytas recently addressed all the allegations around copyright claims placed on videos critical of them by a company named Superbam.
So Superbam is not me. Superbam owes me money if they're claiming these people's videos rightfully, or hopefully it's rightfully. I don't know, YouTube does that system, but I'm not the one doing it. Honestly, like, I want Superbam to stop.
Damn you, Superbam. That is not very super of you to keep bamming everybody's video like that. Jeez, leave them alone.
Because honestly, like, it doesn't matter. And what are they collecting? Are they collecting? I don't know. Maybe it's a couple. Like from what I heard, it was like a couple $1,000s a year or something like that. Like, okay, I don't care about a couple $1,000s a year at all. Like. So honestly, I'd rather them just stop that.
When is Superbam gonna get a hint? Trisha Paytas is officially breaking up with them. It is over. No more claiming people's videos.
Damn, there's a lot to hate me for, like I said, but like this is like something where it's like, oh my god, she's striking people's channels and doing it wrongfully, or she's so greedy or something like that. It's like, no. But if it's a big company like Superbam and they're collecting money and they haven't paid me, then yes, pay me that bag.
That's right, Superbam, you better stop. But if you got Trisha's money, just give it to them first. I mean, Trisha's Darman videos aren't going to pay for themselves.
Did you steal that from my purse?
What?
Where'd you get this?
It was on the floor.
I'm calling immigration.
Somebody tell David Dobrik that he's not out of the woods yet, because apparently Trisha Paytas has immigration on speed dial.
Everything figured out with Superbam. It's not their fault. There was poor management communication. Everything is resolved.
A happy ending to a Trisha Paytas story? Is this a glitch in the Matrix? And in other news, the FBI finally issued an arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie.
Breaking arrest warrant issued for Brian Laundrie. FBI also adds he used the Capital One debit card with intent to defraud between August 30th and September 1st in Wyoming.
Did I read that correctly? Did the FBI really issue an arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie for fraud because he used a debit card that wasn't his? This guy, who is literally the only person of interest in a homicide, is being searched for fraud. What kind of a bizarre world are we living in? And now a palate cleanser.